This is the regular meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission. Today is Thursday, March 19th, 2026. Madam Secretary, please take roll call.
Commissioner Razo,
Here.
Commissioner Lopez Guerra, Commissioner Hernandez,
Here.
Commissioner Peña Marin,
Here.
Commissioner Bermejo.
Here.
Thank you, we have quorum.
Seeing quorum, this meeting is officially called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, members of the public may address the Arts and Culture Commission regarding any non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. No action may be taken on non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Does the public have any comments they wish to share with the commission? Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak.
We have, just to make a comment, we received one general public via email, e-comments, and 16 items for the public arts policy item number 5. And then we have a few here present that they would like to speak. And I'll call the first one Ruby Wu.
Good evening, art commissioners. I'm Ruby Wu, president of the Artesia Pilar neighborhood. Recently, we restored the historic La Raza mural with the help of Alicia Rojas. It was a tremendous undertaking and navigated through all the issues, permits, and rights that was not easy and very taxing. But we got help from Alicia, guided us through the process and helped us establish sets of policies, process to get the restoration started and finished. This eliminated a lot of barriers. I'm here on behalf of the Artesia Pilar Neighborhood Association to support the public art presentation proposal to protect community murals and art. It is to preserve our history, our voice, disparity, being segregated and disfranchised. These murals honor our place and in this all-American city with Chicanos. Thank you.
Next, we have Alicia Rojas.
Buenas noches, commissioners. Buenas noches, Santana. Alicia Rojas here, local artist, co-founder of the Artist Coalition, along with Roger and many others. I want to begin with the words of artist Sergio Cadiz, whose work stands at the center of perhaps why we're here today. In 1999, after his concrete relief mural at this very building was partially destroyed, during city construction, he said, "Public artworks belong to the people, and they should be treated with utmost care and respect. What we're dealing with is the history and cultural memory of a city." It has been over 27 years since that article was published. I also want to mention the legendary artist Marina Aguilera, whose trailblazer work of murals and Chicano history needs to continue to be uplifted, celebrated, and preserved, and she's here with us today. And in their honor, I believe that's why we're here. Because what happened to Sergio Cadiz's work and Marina's work throughout the years has not just been about the erasure of murals. It was about the absence of policy, the absence of process, and the absence of accountability. And we are here to make sure that the history is not repeated ever again. I also want to ground us in the words of Jose Clemente Orozco. The most logical, purest form of painting is a mural. It cannot be hidden away for the benefit of the privileged few. Public art belongs to the people, and that is exactly why this policy matters. The policy is not just a document, it's an implementation tool for the City Arts and Culture Master Plan, which calls stronger arts infrastructure, meaningful community engagement, preservation of cultural heritage, and sustainability with funding. To fully align with the vision, I respectfully urge this commission to consider the following key amendments to the policy being presented. First, clear public notification standards. When artworks are removed, relocated, or altered, there should be a defined process, including a public comment period and transparent communication. Second, strong artist consultation standards aligned with VARA and CAPA. If the city is asking artists to waive rights, then this policy must meet the highest standards of notification, consultation, and respect for artist integrity. I want to emphasize these amendments must be strong, clearly, and defined, not optional or vague, because we have already seen what's at stake. We recently came very close to losing the Chicano Gothic mural at Memorial Park. That moment showed us that without clear policy, without process, and without accountability, even our most iconic works are vulnerable. Third, community representation in artist selection. There should be people from the community in the decision-making process of what art goes into their neighborhood. Clear expectations of community engagement is also part of the master plan. Those things should be amended and added to the policy. And finally, I just want to add something to the budget, if I may go over 10 seconds. If we do not fund this policy, it will not succeed. The Arts Master Plan calls for sustainable arts infrastructure, and that must include the creation of Public Art Trust Fund. I strongly urge the city to establish a permanent line item in the budget, starting at minimum $50K annually, dedicated specifically to the maintenance, conservation, and restoration of public art in our city. Because right now, we are reacting to damage instead of preventing it. We should not have to wait decades, like in the case of Sergio, to restore what should have been protected. I want to close with saying this. We are here today because this community did not give up. Artists, advocates pushed for this policy for many years after being told no, often being ignored, and yet we are here. This is a historic moment, and it's also yours. Thank you.
Next, we have John Spiak.
Thank you, commissioners, excuse me. And it's great to see a full quorum. It's nice that you're all here and so dedicated to the arts in our community. I am just speaking on behalf of the arts, public art and preservation policy. And I just want to say it's so important for the city. If we think of ancient societies and ancient civilizations, we think of the preservation of cave paintings, we think of the preservations of, not going to say it correctly now, drawings on the walls that are been preserved, that are considered so important for society's memory. We are a city that is full of that memory. The early Chicano murals of the 70s that took place here, the outreach from Santa Ana College that was really instrumental in bringing a lot of these muralists here. With the original Arts Master Plan, I think these policies were put in, thought about, constructed by members, most of the members that are in this audience today. I think all of them were part of that Arts Master Plan. And I think that input and that importance for our city must be valued. I agree on budget. The budget needs to be there. $50,000 is extremely low for a budget to preserve arts. This is a city where I go to events like the Green Conference or the GROW Conference. And all I hear is developers say, oh, we came to the city because of the arts, the quality of life issues. And yet that support doesn't seem to come back. The developers aren't really reinvesting in the arts in our community in the ways that they possibly could. And so I think some conversations at that point where clearly the arts are of complete value to the city, but are not being supported at that level. So that's all I want to say. I think the amendments should be taken into account as well. I think community engagement is a super important part of any public art process because if you don't have buy-in to the community, there's no relevance. You're just creating something that we call plop art in the art world. You can drop a sculpture someplace, but if it has no relevance, no one's going to care. And we also have to think about our monuments as well. There's something called monumental invisibility, and if we don't share those stories, they disappear. And I specifically thinking of Alex O'Day's monument and the project that we're working on right now called the Stolen Dove Project. So thanks for your time, and let's keep supporting the arts in Santa Ana. Thanks.
Next, Victor Paya. And after Victor, Marina Aguilera.
So I wanted to talk on 4 and 5. Do I get 3 minutes for both or 3 minutes for each? Just start talking? Okay. The arts budget, super important. We did the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. The arts contribute millions of dollars to the community, to the city taxes. Fight for it, get as much of it back. The way the arts are described in the packet, we are so much more than that. So fight for every dollar, every inch, because we deserve it and we contribute back. And when people buy houses, the listings don't say close to this, close to that. They say close to the artist village. So the artists, create jobs, help youth, lower crime, et cetera. So I'm here to speak for myself and Pocha Peña, who couldn't be here, but I got her statement, and we each emailed you our statement, so I'll just summarize here. Pocha was one of the first arts commissioners and one of the first chairs of the Arts Commission, and she says there's a need for additional staff in Public Art Board, establish comprehensive guidelines for preservation practices, consider providing anti-graffiti coat, clarification on city-issued grants. On the first page of the end of the second paragraph, it says city-issued grants are excluded from being governed under this policy. What does that mean? All public art should be governed by this policy. And she gives some resources, Chicano Park Museum, Chicano Park, groups we've worked with, San Diego Department of Arts and Culture, City of San Antonio Public Art, and City of San Antonio Arts Department as models that we can follow. And when she was on the Arts Commission, I know that she really pushed for these, but there was a lot of pushback. And so now that we have a really solid Arts Commission, I think we can lead with the example of other communities that are successful and adapt that to what we want to do. So in terms of myself, I want to say that having read the draft of the public arts policy, my first reaction is that it almost exclusively deals with murals and ignores other forms of public art, including digital artwork, sculptures, installations, sidewalk art, augmented reality or light or sound-based pieces requiring electricity, solar power, etc. This reveals a significant bias toward muralism, which dominated Santa Ana's notion of public art for several decades. It not only misses a major opportunity to innovate Santa Ana's public art offerings, but also skews the dominance of discussion and the resources by muralists and their advocates at the expense of artists working in other disciplines. So we have an opportunity to create a really vibrant, new, cutting-edge public art policy. And we were there. UASA are the ones who nominated Sergio Ocadiz, one of the artists to be a Maestro Award. Sorry, as my old age, my memory's going. But we know the importance of celebrating the artists. It's about the people as well as the work. And we need to celebrate the people while they're here, provide them resources, provide the programs. All of the great murals that people are talking about were made with public funding. So we need to continue funding murals, but also other forms of public art. Thank you.
Marina Aguilera.
Hello, all. I'm La Artista Marina Aguilera, and thank you for your time. I just want to say, put my specs on here. As an artist who has contributed to this city of Santa Ana with my paintbrush over 50 years, it is important that I speak and that you hear not just myself, but ones that are connected with me, fellow artists from the past. I have concerns regarding several of these proposed public art policy amendments, and I will be sending my concerns via emails to all of you in the near future. Thank you.
Andrea Pinedo. Andrea.
Hello. My name is Andrea Pinedo, and I've had the privilege of being part of and contributing to several public art projects throughout the city. Although I no longer reside in Santa Ana, my family has extremely deep roots, having lived over a century here in this beautiful city. Chicano murals entered Orange County in the early 1970s, and I'm proud to say that my mother, La Artista Marina Aguilera, was among the pioneering artists who created the first murals ever made here in the city of Santa Ana. And she still is continuing to create meaningful, beautiful art. It's been heartbreaking to see all the countless art that has been destroyed over the years. History has been erased. So I'm very excited, and I appreciate all the hard work that the city and all of the dedicated artists, many who are sitting here today, in both contributing and developing a comprehensive public art policy for the city of Santa Ana. It is long overdue and very necessary. As the commission reviews the draft policy, I respectfully ask and encourage consideration of several amendments that would enhance transparency, artist protection, and community involvement as follows. Public notifications when artworks may be altered or removed, artist consultation and notice. These procedures should align with the principles of the Visual Artists' Rights, Act and the California Art Preservation Act. Also, community representation in artist selection. Artist selection panels should include appropriate representatives. Community engagement in public art projects should be, I'm so sorry. Community engagement as well in public art projects should be a priority. In addition to that, looking at a public art trust fund, the policy should strengthen support for establishing a public art trust fund to provide long-term funding for maintenance and preservation of Santa Ana's public art collection. These are some of the amendments that would ensure this policy fully supports and aligns with the goals set forth in Santa Ana's Arts and Culture Master Plan. Please help us protect the city's vibrant public art. Thank you. Si se puede.
That was the last public speaker.
Okay. This is time for the commission to consider matters under the consent calendar, items 1 and 2. Do I have a motion to consider items 1 and 2?
I motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Bermejo.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Peñamari. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Matter approved by unanimous consent. So we have 2 items under the work study session. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken on these items. The first item under the work study session is the City of Santa Ana's budget presentation.
Okay, Chair, we'd like to invite our Finance Department up to give the presentation, and they are available for questions following them.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here today. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the current year's budget, discuss the budget process and where we're at as of today, and encourage folks to complete the annual Community Priorities Survey. The results of this survey will help City Council allocate resources for the 26-27 fiscal year, which commences on July 1st, 2026 and runs through June 30th, 2027. Similar to other public sector entities, the City of Santa Ana uses fund accounting to ensure transparency and accountability. This pie chart includes all of the city's fund types. And you'll see for 25-26, the citywide budget for all funds is $778 million, or it was as of July 1st. On the right-hand side, on the blue pie chart, you'll see that the largest piece of the pie is the general fund. This is the only unrestricted fund that City Council has discretion over. City Council spends the majority of its time prioritizing and allocating general fund resources. Next over, capital project funds at $53.25 million are used to build, renovate, and maintain city assets. Funds for road and street improvements are here. Dollars in these funds typically come from grant sources such as Caltrans and the Orange County Transportation Authority. Debt service funds, the next one over in gray, include pension obligation bonds and other city debt. In mustard yellow are enterprise funds. These funds are designed to be self-sustaining. Revenue collected from these services are intended to cover the full cost of operations. Examples include the water, sewer, and refuse enterprises. Other restricted funds in dark blue Examples include the Cannabis Public Benefit Fund, which was established by City Council to specifically fund youth and enforcement services. 2/3 of the revenue flows into this fund, while the remaining third stays in the general fund. Examples of youth services include library services and facilities for children and teens. Enforcement services are costs associated with enforcing cannabis business regulations and the related public safety enforcement. And finally, we have special revenue funds. These include the gas tax and other funding sources that have very specific requirements regarding how funds can be spent. As an example, gas tax funds can only be used on road and highway maintenance, local street repairs, and transportation infrastructure. Examples of transportation infrastructure include traffic signal improvements and median landscaping. The citywide budget increased by 6% this fiscal year compared to last year. Most of this growth was attributed to the Capital Project Fund due to increased grant funding from the Orange County Transportation Authority. Next slide. Santa Ana is unique because it has more unrestricted revenue than restricted. This is largely due to the city's 1.5% local sales tax. In many other cities, most funding is restricted, which means that City Council has less flexibility in how the money can be used. Today, we will only address the city's general fund. Next slide, thank you. The primary sources of revenue in the general fund are property taxes and sales tax, which account for about 60% of the total overall general fund revenue. For each dollar of property tax that you pay, the city receives approximately 19 cents, with the remaining portion going to countywide services and schools. If you shop or dine in Santa Ana, you pay 9.25% sales tax. The city receives 1% of the normal allocation plus 1.5% for voter-approved Measure X. Current year general fund revenue was estimated to be $413.8 million, which was a very slight increase of only 1.8% compared to last year. Slower consumer spending and higher interest rates are limiting both sales and property tax growth. To make matters even more complicated, raising new revenue in California is challenging. Any new tax requires voter approval, and new city fees can only recover the cost of providing services. In other words, we cannot generate a profit. The city's general fund expenditure as of July 1st was $424 million, which represents an increase of 3.5% compared to the prior fiscal year. General fund expenditures are rising faster than revenue because costs for labor, health benefits, and pensions continue to grow, along with inflationary increases in goods and services the city purchases. And this is something that we can all relate to. These are the top spending priorities identified by the Santa Ana community during the last budget process. Over the past 5 years, these priorities have remained consistent, with public safety and road and sidewalk maintenance continuing to take the lead. So far this year, we've received about 800 survey submissions, which means we only have 9,200 to go before we get to the mayor's goal. We can make this happen. We're asking for your help in promoting the survey. Please encourage family, friends, coworkers, and even your enemies to participate. We welcome input from anyone with a vested interest in Santa Ana. This slide provides some notable examples of how the city has acted on the community's feedback in allocating funds for the current fiscal year. It shows the tangible impact of your input from programs to projects and demonstrates that the city listens and responds to what residents prioritize. In other words, this is how we close the loop on prior year funding decisions, turning survey responses and community input into real investments that benefit the Santa Ana community. Every year, the Budget Office sets a few key goals. First, we aim to cast as wide net as possible, reaching the Santa Ana community, including residents, business owners, and all stakeholders. Secondly, we work to improve engagement numbers each year. To help with this, we now keep the budget survey live year-round. In prior years, by the time momentum built up, it was almost time to close the survey. But the primary reason we're here today is to ask for your help in promoting the survey. Balancing the city's budget is expected to be particularly challenging this year, which makes community input more important than ever. The public's demand for service is outpacing the city's legal ability to raise revenue. When the sales tax decreases from 1.5% to 1% in 2029, the city will lose more than $30 million in revenue. While city leadership is already planning for this decrease, resource allocation will become even more difficult. And realistically, not everyone is going to get everything on their wish list. And we'll just skip over this slide. The city of Santa Ana prides itself on financial transparency. On the city's website, you can find the current year's fiscal year budget in detail, prior year budgets, and annual financial reports, and much more. And finally, we're asking that you take a few minutes to complete the community priority survey. It takes less than 5 minutes, includes only 7 questions. We heard your complaints from last year, and most questions allow open-ended responses, so you can share what matters most to you, even if it's not listed as an option. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. Your opinion counts, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have. And my boss is also here, so if I'm not able to answer, he will be.
Okay, I will open it up for comments from my fellow commissioners.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. It was very informative. Just one question is for me is how do you guys go about marketing or getting more surveys? Is there a process, or how have you guys gotten the best results for that?
So that's a really good question. And since I've been here, we've kind of fine-tuned the process. But this year, what we did is we added a question to the survey that says, how did you hear about us? Because we were always wondering, like, what was going to work. And so by far, I checked the responses as of today, and by far the number one is our social media ads. The second biggest driver of survey engagement is going to be our website, or the Santa Ana the Santa Ana app. Everything else kind of falls off pretty dramatically after those two. So that is what we've been working with our comms team on, promoting it on all kinds of social media. We promote it in English, Spanish, and Vietnamese, pushing it in on our app and promoting on our website. And also we're relying on you all for word of mouth for those folks in your lives. We're getting more and more targeted and deliberate and planning more every year. We're getting better at this.
If I may, and I really appreciate the authentic engagement. How are you leveraging already existing structures to provide feedback? I'm talking about the chambers of commerce, different nonprofits, for-profit businesses, and even the schools, right?
Right. And so it's taken us a little while to get there. It's taken us a few years, but we're getting there. So today, or this year, for the first time, we interacted with the Santa Ana School District's FACE department. They're like the Community Engaged Family Assistant. We went to their professional development. And so it was schools from all over Santa Ana USD where we talked about the survey. We sent them flyers so they can pass it out on their school district. We've also, the more we do this, the more people are reaching out to us and asking us. So any nonprofit that reaches out to us and say, hey, can you come talk to us? We do it. We've met so far this year, we've met with KidWorks, we've met with Viet Rise, we've had parent events, and we've had events just targeted for kids to get their input. And I can tell you my favorite question from a kid was, he's little, he's like, can we get a park with not just grass? Grass is boring. And I just thought that was the cutest thing I'd ever heard. So interacting with the kids, kids are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. And I guess that's why there's that show. That's why they say the darndest things, but anyways.
With regards to social media, which obviously that's the biggest marketing drive that is out there, how often are you posting? Is there any information on that? I'll be honest, I don't know that I've seen it.
So that's a great question. And yes, there is. I should have done my research on that today before I came down here so I could answer those kind of questions. But I know that we're doing very kind of deliberate pushes around like important community or city council meetings. Like on April 7th is the scheduled discussion to talk about what we call early direction. And that's city council's first kind of public, large-scale discussion to provide us direction on how to proceed with the budget. And so I'm sure it's going to be amping up around that. And we'll have multiple meetings in April and May where we're going to talk about the budget. And so we're going to keep talking about it more and more. But in terms of how they do that, I don't have the answers for you on that.
Okay, and second, who could we reach out to if we want to bring you in to have these discussion with nonprofits?
Oh, just me. Yeah, I can schedule it with you. That's what we do. We go to neighborhood association meetings and we meet other neighborhood association leaders, and I just hand out my business card. Just contact me and we'll get it scheduled.
Okay.
I will tell you March is booked, but we can do April.
Okay, how do I I don't have.
Oh, I will
information.
make sure the team gets it to you. I'll leave my card with them.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. Also, just love your humor. Very nice touch, particularly for something that's a little dry. So I'm looking at the pie chart that says fund expenditures. And I'm just curious, it doesn't, obviously, there's not one category that says arts and culture. So
Right.
I'm just curious if you could clarify for all of us, where does arts and culture live?
Okay, so in blue, it says community development. That's where they live. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because usually I say, hey, for community, this is where you can find those things. But it's the blue with community development.
Wow, because like that's $5 million sounds like a nice pot of money, but we obviously don't get, right? Yeah, all of that. We get
Right.
really a small little
Right,
sliver. So can you
right.
help us understand, like, what does that pocket look like?
Well, I can tell you what else is in it, but Mike can weigh in Mike or Alex can weigh in if I miss anything, or you can take the lead. It's your budget.
So the bulk of our money is spent, general fund money, is spent in economic development and arts. Very little of the money that and admin, we have an administrative division. The bulk of our revenue as a department and the budget that we control is federal and state. Literally, I think close to $120 million is non-general funds. So money that's coming in through property tax and coming in from the general fund revenue that collects. We've got an enterprise fund as well for the parking garages and parking meters. And but outside of that, I believe our arts budget it's very small. I think it's about $200,000. Does that sound right? It's higher, Mark? Go ahead and.
A little low to me.
I don't think I think it's a little more than $200,000 based on the grants, artist grants that we get, the sponsorship dollars. It is bigger than our economic development division, and I'm jealous.
The arts is bigger than economic development?
Our economic development program funds that we get to use are lower than our arts.
Wow. I would love to actually know the real number, if we can get that number for us. I'm also curious, I know that we have a very important arts institution, a very historic institution here in our community that does, I've heard, get a large portion of arts funding from every, I guess, resident that contributes. And I don't see that reflected on here, and I would love to know what that information
I'm
is.
not sure I know what you're referring to. Are you talking about the Bowers Museum? Oh, okay, that is on here.
Where?
It is going to be under, ooh, that's tiny.
Yeah, I don't
I think
see
it's going to be, you're right, it is in here because it's our general fund budget, but it's probably under administration and just got lumped together and we forgot to highlight it. But it's in here because it's our general fund budget.
Can we get those numbers? I
The
would love
numbers,
to know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know at the top of your head what it is we spent on Bowers?
More than $1 million.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we do provide an annual contribution to the Bowers Museum for the maintenance of the facility. It is on our budget document. It is 1,000 pages, by the way, our budget document, but we do have a specific section where it says Bowers Museum. We could send you a link and you could see it on there, but.
And is that's taken out of the arts funding?
That's separate, actually.
Okay, so it's under like parks or something, because it's sort of like a,
It's actually, its own department. We call it department, but it's in Bowers, so it's not under CDA or it's not under parks. But if you do a search on our budget document, you'll see that it's a Bowers funding in there. But it is funded through the general fund.
to the general, okay.
And it actually does say museum, I just found it. It's under other, the other category, not administration.
I look at,
Oh, okay.
I look at numbers all day long and I don't ever cite them because I'll
We
screw
ha-
them up.
We do have more than one museum in Santa Ana, so I'm curious,
Right.
is that then distributed equally to?
So our contractual relationship is with the Bowers Museum. And so when we're talking about museum support, we're specifically only talking about the Bowers Museum. I'm not aware of any other kind of financial relationship we have with museums, but we might.
No, Bowers Museum is a city-owned property, and as a tenant, we have maintenance obligations and then long-term contractual relations with Bowers Museum. So it's a bit different than like Discovery Cube, which is a nonprofit and completely private, and I'm sure there are other museums that I cannot think of right now.
The Lion Museum? is that-
Heritage.
The Lion Air Museum,
Heritage Museum.
Heritage.
If I could get further clarification, under community development.
Sure.
What other items are funded under that category?
Economic development, there's a little bit of money in there for the unhoused. It's the arts and culture stuff.
And then it covers, we have administrative staff that some of their salaries get funded by the rental housing board, by other activities with the work center. So the work center is part of economic development, but they're largely funded from federal and even some state funds that come in. It also covers some of our staff that are administrative and working across all of our commissions, our Workforce Development Board, Arts and Culture Commission, Community Development Commission, Rental Housing Board. So Bianca and Jessica Guerrero, who you see here from time to time. And then my own salary comes out from the general fund. I do charge to a lot of the other federal and state programs that we administer, so.
So would it be accurate to say like there's a braiding of funds, right? That happens, okay.
I think community development has like the most funds. There's a lot of restricted programs, restricted funding.
All right,
Any other questions?
I'm gonna jump in here and folks can also give some final questions or another round of questions or whatnot. So on the topic of the Bowers Museum, so do they charge the city when we do events, city-sponsored events, or no, we don't charge ourselves?
I do not know. Well, we're only responsible for like the maintenance of the building. We don't provide funding for like the programming or anything like that. So I don't know how to answer that though.
There are event charges because of staffing that they have to have there, and we have no full-time or part-time staff that work at the Bowers Museum, so it's run independently. However, that adds costs when there are events, so.
Okay. And you said that there's no funding from the city?
We only fund like the maintenance of the building and like if there's big repairs, I think we fund that. But in terms of the actual staffing or programming, we're not involved with that. And there might be some informal partnerships that I'm not aware of, but just I can tell you there's nothing for that in the budget.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I spoke to the city manager, he was gracious enough to come out with the deputy city manager as well. And one of the things that I brought up to him was how difficult it was for me to find the survey on the city of Santa Ana, on the Santa Ana app. And so, I found it, but I had to scroll a lot.
Yeah.
So I would just like it for that to be like pinned somewhere.
Right. It used to be on the main page. And so, yeah, I'll talk to Paul about that.
Yeah, and he took note of it, so hopefully,
Okay.
there is follow-up from different folks that might be involved with making that happen. I know there's tech stuff and other things. One of the things that strikes me from just looking at the survey responses from the community is that 22% public safety initiatives. So is this correct, that 22% of public safety initiatives and 22% is for road and sidewalk maintenance? Is that two different percentages, or is that one?
I think we just it's been so long since we've developed this
presentation. I honestly don't remember. I think what has happened is they both got about 22% of the votes.
Both of 1 and 2.
1 and 2 got on average about 22% of the votes, not a combined 22%, 22% each.
Okay, so that's 44, and then youth and programs and activities, presumably, and then
Right.
number 4, then that's 64, 84, and then 15. Yeah, that checks out, 15% arts and culture programs. So what jumps at me is that what like the community is saying that they are prioritizing based on percentages, and the percentages of the way that the pie is broken up here is startling. You know, that big old blue is that's the budget of oh wait, I'm sorry, not that one. The from the other one is the police department budget. Yeah, this one. So 38.8%, and fire and emergency medical services 14.4%. So that's, you know, almost, yeah, more than half
Right.
together between police and department. Which, you know, everybody would say that makes sense perhaps, like, but also it's just such a big difference, because there was only a 22% differences from the community's perspective, from the difference between prioritizing police funding and prioritizing youth programs. So my question then to you is like, so from what the community surveys pretends, is that then articulated into some sort of proposal that is actually presented to the council, or is it more of like, we're gonna keep the budget basically similar to what it was the year before, or however long, you know, between we do it, but this is what the community is saying, and this is the moment for you, council, to make a decision on increasing or decreasing funding for each of these sections?
I don't think there's any kind of effort to maintain the status quo necessarily. I do know that in terms of what our mission is to collect everything we hear, compile it, and then share it with city council and like the public. And in terms of how resources kind of get allocated beyond that, I would say every year is unique, and every year presents its own kind of issues and challenges. And it feels like every year a topic just kind of comes out of nowhere that we don't, like one year it was animal control, and that was the hot buzz. And so, I mean, it's like, I've just noticed that every year something comes up and it's a little bit of difference, but I would say the priorities don't change from what I hear when I'm out in the community. That doesn't seem to change.
Yeah, that's true. It, you know, it's still, you know, just my point I feel still stands is that, you know, the community, and you know, community might want something in like where in reality all of our, you know, funding is, and maybe that's part of what the survey needs to reflect more, you know, like in a better way. You know, just questions around even percentages, like if you had to, you know, choose how much percentage you would give for this priority that you chose was a top priority, what would be based on the, you know, all these other ones? And maybe even, you know, sharing this graphic on the survey so that they have a sense.
gives them more
Like, I think this, by and large, to me, you know, and I could be wrong, but this, it very much feels symbolic, and it's important to survey our community, but it's not like this survey is then dictating policy. Like, it doesn't feel like that to me.
That's fair.
But at the very least, this could be a very important educational moment for our community to really see a visual and see how our money is spent. And then from that point, then elect council members or whatnot that reflect, you know, what the community wants versus, you know, what it actually is. So the last comment I'll make before I you know, let other folks share real quickly is that I don't know if there's a ability to have an incentive process for it. I don't know if that's legal or not.
You mean like, can we bribe folks to take the survey?
Could we have folks enter into an opportunity contest, you know, to win tickets to, you know, Los Darks or something like that, to, you know, to fill out this survey is kind of what I was going at.
So, yeah, we actually have talked about it, and this isn't quite that, but this is what we have done. So we go to city events and we buy these like toys and markers and coloring books for kids to bribe parents to bring their kids over. And then when they're over there collecting their free stuff, we're like, hey, take the survey while you're right here. So I agree, like, yeah, that's some kind of giveaway to incentivize the survey. That is kind of a goal of ours that we're working on.
Remind me again, how many people have taken the survey, more or less?
We're in the 800s.
Oh.
And so we are going to keep the survey open year round because every year it feels like we start off so slow. And then by the time the momentum starts kicking up, I mean, the budget season's almost over. So by hopefully keeping it open, I mean, we might draw a line in the sand and say, we're going to take input to this date, and then whatever's, you know, that will be shared with city council. And then anything that comes later, we'll share with them at a future date. But it's still a work in progress.
Do we have a social media team with the city of Santa Ana?
We do.
We do?
We do. So Paul Eakins, our public information officer, has 2 dedicated staff, and then each department typically designates somebody that can work directly. So in our department, one of our economic development specialists, Savannah Spicer, she works directly with Paul on a lot of different messaging for our department.
And we have an actual communications team now, too.
Awesome. The only reason I'm asking is because, I mean, let's face it, social media, it is what it is. It's
Yeah.
where we're at, it's the world we're in.
Right.
And it's very competitive in terms of reels and videos, and your marketing has to grab the eye. And I just don't know that I've, quite honestly, have seen that. I'm not saying that they're not doing it. I'm just trying to figure out how do we engage community
Right.
into this, and it's going to be through social media.
Agreed.
Quite honestly, and it needs to have a sparkle to it in order to catch.
That's why
be
we've actually,
realistic.
so the past budget process, when we had some funds, that's what some of that was to create a centralized comms team too. And so that not every department kind of has their own, and then you're pushing things out with different, and then things get diluted. And so the idea was to create a central comm team so everybody's on the same message. And it's more of a centralized, unified approach to how we talk to the community.
I'm the one who always was watching time, but I want to be very clear. Yes, on the messaging, but the correlation and connection between the survey and the impact on the budget needs to be transparent. And I might have missed it, but I would ask for a follow-up so that I have an elevator speech, if you will, on clarity on what the intent and purpose is. Then now the research in me is saying, how are the questions developed? I understand that they're open-ended, but how are they developed so that they are not biased or leading? And that would be very important for me to
Right.
understand so that we are authentically getting what we're expecting and not leading our community into what we think or want them to answer.
So I'm going to be very honest. The intention of the survey was never for it to be like scientifically valid. And we knew that walking into it, that's not going to work. And there's a couple of reasons why. So last year we added questions, and I think there was like 17 questions, and people were like, we are not filling out that survey. It is going to take too long. So we go back and forth where one year we have more questions that are a little bit more nuanced in nature, and then we get feedback, so then we bring it back down and make it broader. And I'll tell you that like a city as big and as complex as Santa Ana is, a 7-question survey that you can do like in 4 minutes is never going to get to that kind of detail. But I will tell you that Assistant City Manager Catherine Downs presented at City Council this past Tuesday, and she presented on, we had a contract with a firm to do scientific polling services, and it was to gauge residents' like openness towards another ballot measure. And the results of it aligned pretty closely with our survey. And so that made me feel good. But I just want to disclose that there was never any kind of intention for this to be statistically meaningful. We did share it with City Council. We did share it with the City Manager's office because over the years we have heard some feedback that maybe this question was a little bit misleading. And so we've worked really hard about making that neutral, but I am 100% confident it would not meet your standards. But I mean, in yours, I mean, any kind of researcher. It wasn't designed to do that. It was designed to a quick, easy way to get community to talk to us. Anything else?
Any final comments? Yeah, I think I want to thank you for coming and sharing this. This is really important information, and as much as we can help the city council promote this, it's an important exercise. I don't want my comments to minimize the importance of it. I take surveys all the time, and then at the end of it, they usually give me $2 off my combo and stuff. So
Another good idea.
yeah. Yeah, I'm one of the few, right? But it is cumbersome for a lot of people. But this is where we through our own channels with our group, and I'm personally committing to help spread the word and talk to more nonprofits, because I think that is one key part that perhaps sending it out to organizations. We are the nonprofit capital of Orange County here, and I'm sure that if folks went out to give presentations or had that tapping it is like, hey, this, if you work in the city, you serve the city, this is important to do that. But and with the closing of Measure X sunsetting, that is going to be a big issue that our city is going to have to deal with and grapple with. And there's going to be some tightening of the belts and some, difficult decisions that will be smart people in this room that, are going to be, trying to figure out where to cut and where not to cut and where to, and so I know that even this department, this commission could see our event sponsorship disappear, which, that would be really difficult because, those funds bring people here that then spend money, and then that can generate that excitement and that cultura that Santana is known for, and that, helps us continue to generate revenue. So, yeah. So anyways, I think we'll do our part to promote it, and I think it's clear that we deserve more money here at the Arts and Culture Commission, and hopefully, and as much as we can, and then before, the cuts are happening, that we can prioritize youth, art and culture over other items that, that are important, but perhaps not to the tune of the tens of millions that they are getting funded. So
Understood.
those are my final comments.
This isn't a comment for you exactly, but just another request on behalf of the office department, which is in addition to getting some more specific details on how much we're allocated for arts and culture, et cetera. We did do an economic impact survey in 2024, I think. It's been 2025. And some of the commissioners here were not here during that time. And I think it would be great if you could, knowing that there probably is going to be some similarities from that previous year to this year, if you could share a summary even of that impact data report with the entire commission, so that as we do speak to our community and we speak to our council members advocating for more funding, we can actually speak with some numbers. Because you're right, we do bring in all, every event, people are coming and buying gas and buying food and buying merchandise possibly. And that data, we can't just say it's, you should do it for the love of your heart, but if we can say it really is bringing revenue into our city, here is what that looks like. I think we'd have a much better case.
Thank you so much.
Understood and noted. And I have one of our budget interns. She's in the audience today, and she's taking notes, Yasmin Garcia, and she's going to be the one who compiles everything and shares it with City Council. So she's taking everything down. Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So the second item under the work study session is the City of Santana Public Arts and Preservation Policy, discussion and community feedback.
We will have our art specialist work on this presentation. Take it away, Trim.
Yes, this is what everybody's here for. Okay. Is the presentation up quite yet. Okay. All right, so the Arts and Culture Master Plan that was unanimously approved by City Council in 2016 included a recommendation for a public art program and policy, and it was goal 8.1. And so the public arts, and since then, since the master plan was adopted, there have been many, many discussions at Arts and Culture Commission meetings, ad hocs, subcommittee meetings. Some of you were there for that. Many in the audience were there for that since the beginning, all these different meetings, community forums, and we've been collecting all that input from many of these sources and stakeholders to inform this public art and preservation policy that you see in front of you, that has been sent to you. As you know, because public art plays an important role in shaping the identity, character, as all the different community members have spoken to in their public comments, the city's identity, character, and cultural vibrancy. So I think we agree that this is a very important document. But I do want to clarify that, that this particular document is an internal administrative document, which means that it's to guide our different departments in the city. So as we have public art come before us, and to also emphasize that we are collaborative in all the different agencies working together. It is not to fall just on arts and culture or economic development or community development agency, because the public art projects affect multiple agencies, such as Public Works, Planning and Building, Parks and Rec, even libraries. They have the Alex O'Day sculpture in front. So we all work collaboratively together. This document will then share about different roles and responsibilities, as well as a unified and transparent process so that when I'm not here, when all of us are not here, another staff member will know what to do when it falls on their desk, okay? So that's the purpose of this. It is not necessarily for public consumption or to govern public or private land, okay? So, so let me see. But, let's see, okay, so development of the city's first comprehensive public art preservation. This is the very first time we've been able to put together an official document. It establishes internal guidance, as I said, for administration of public art within the city. It provides clear procedures for commissioning, managing, and maintaining public art, and supports transparency and consistency in public art decision-making. So with all of those different means, this document was informed by all of the feedback previously. But we still would love to have feedback for this document. And we appreciate all the time and effort and thoughtfulness that folks have put into giving us detailed feedback, sometimes line by line. So we do appreciate that very much. Next slide, please. And definitely our mission and our ethos is to create a transparent framework for public art projects, defining the roles and responsibilities of each of the agencies, to say it very succinctly, and more detail is in the policy itself, but to say succinctly, Community Development Agency serves as the lead entity for public art projects along with the initiating city departments and supports the Arts and Culture, CDA supports the Arts and Culture Commission. The initiating city department means if it comes from, let's say, Parks and Rec wants to do a sculpture, a memorial, a mural in their parks, they are the initiating agency. We support that. We will work with them on a call. We work with them on developing a panel, a review panel, things like that. So we are not necessarily the lead, but we have to work together. And then, of course, if it takes into account any kind of permits and things like that, so that would go through a different agency, mainly Public Works or Planning and Building. Public Works Agency will provide technical guidance on installation feasibility and assist with maintenance of art within city facilities. So city facilities includes the jail, community centers, things like that, different city buildings. Whatever the city owns, those are city facilities. Parks and Rec, Parks Recreation Community Services Agency will lead public arts projects within city parks. Planning and Building Agency will provide support for historic preservation review and ensures compliance with planning and building regulations. So again, permits and things like that. But more importantly, because some murals might be put on historic buildings, as you know, we have a lot of those. So those would be then reviewed by the HRC, the Historic Resources Commission. So we each have our roles, but we will work together, and that's this document is the first time to articulate it very clearly that way. We want to ensure long-term stewardship and preservation of public artworks. As we've all mentioned, over time, things degrade just naturally. It's the nature of public art. It's beholden to weather and all of that. And it is a perennial issue in the city. There's constantly going to be a need for maintenance, preservation, and now it is written a lot more clearly in these documents. We do have, however, the mural restoration program, and this is a fairly new thing, and it's just starting with 5 murals being restored as of now. So the agreements have been signed. It is now as we speak, it is being restored. And we also have regular monitoring for the condition of, we want to think ahead and have more regular monitoring of conditions for public art on city property. And definitely we want to support culturally relevant and community-focused artwork through community meetings and input that we have all spoken to. So the city does recognize the importance of that. This framework also includes budgeting and funding, which folks have brought up to proposal selections, permit requirements, and legal compliance and responsibilities. Next slide, please. Key policy components. The public art, this document will outline public art project development and approval process, including legal compliance, which has free speech in it. So we do not want to touch the freedom of speech for artists. We do not dictate what or how they would do their artwork. However, they need to abide by obscenity laws. Obscenity meaning gratuitous, nudity, things like that, and things are inappropriate for public viewing. Trademark and copyright designs. We cannot use designs and images that are trademarked by somebody else. For example, we can't have Mickey Mouse in any of the designs, things like that, that have been obviously legally trademarked. And also to distinguish between signs and murals. So a lot of businesses will ask, can I put a mural up on my wall? But truly it's it's an ad for their business. And so we have to be very clear. And that's when planning and building comes in. They're the ones who regulate signs. There's an ordinance for signs, and signs can only be so large. Otherwise, everybody is going to do a huge sign for themselves. So these murals cannot have, it cannot be a blatant advertisement for their business. So things like that, we have to say that very clearly. Design, that's under design criteria. Building planning and safety regulations, which includes historic preservation consideration, as I mentioned before. And also, if the mural affects the integrity of the building itself, if it's being attached to this building, then it does affect the integrity, so that needs a permit. So those are those kinds of considerations that we've learned over the years that needs to be said more clearly and for all agencies to understand that process. Public engagement, which we talked about, capital projects. Now, currently, there is a requirement for developers through planning and building. They do say that there needs to be a public art component to any new development, and it must pass their review in order for the developers to get permission to build permits to build their new development. So that is in place, but we would love to make it more robust. And that is something that is specific to Santa Ana in this document. We even outline construction around existing artwork versus installing new art. So if a developer wants to build something, add on, let's say, to their building, and there's already existing art there, what they need to and not need to do and what to avoid, and they even have to include it in their bidding process ahead of time. So we want to front load a lot of this so that there's no surprises at the end, and developers will understand what is required of them and build that into their budget. Or if they want to install new art. So we have to think ahead like that. And with permits, also, if as you're installing this artwork or the mural, are you obstructing public right-of-way, such as building a scaffold in the sidewalk, let's say, if you want to get up to up a wall. So those are things that artists or anybody coming in, installing these artworks need to understand that is a requirement. Moving on to artist selection and commissioning procedures. There's we're distinguishing between requests for qualifications for projects projects with a budget of $50,000 and below. An RFQ, which is a request for qualifications, is not required, only an RFP. So an RFQ, the difference between RFQ and an RFP is a request for proposal, whereas one is just to assess the qualification of the artists applying. So that would just be based on their previous art with their portfolio. So if through their portfolio, their curriculum vitae, their CV, their resume, if it matches the minimum requirement or whatever criteria is set forth, they would then be put on a short list for all the artists that, if the project requires somebody to have a minimum of, let's say, I'm making this up, but 2 to 3 years of experience working on monuments, then whoever is able to demonstrate that through their resume or CV then gets put, and among other things, quality of their work, things like that, aesthetic, matching with whatever is contextually relevant for that neighborhood, then they would be put onto a short list. That's RFQ. And then from that short list, we would then approach them to submit an RFP, which is a request for proposal. So anything over $50,000, we would then do that extra step. For any projects with a budget under $50,000, no need for a request for qualifications, and move directly into an RFP, which is request for proposal. So yeah, makes sense? Clear, okay. So that would be the difference. And that's a new thing, actually, what we're doing as we want to grow this process and this side of art. Local artists, we also emphasize local artist preference to prioritize the contribution of Santa Ana's creative community by allotting extra points. And a lot of that is thanks to the commission who have advocated for that recognition. And then finally, proposal evaluations will go through review panels, usually made up of somebody from the initiating entity, because they are the ones who have the budget, they're the ones the land is affecting, and then community leaders, other artists and also business members, anybody surrounding that area who would then have to, affected by that artwork as well, would be part of the panel. But ultimately, artists would still, and this is also outlined specifically in here, is that artists would need to have a business license and insurance in order to have this, be awarded this commission. Okay, next slide, please. Key policy components: the collection and management of artwork documentation, public art inventory. This time we would love to have artist collaboration in not just keeping the inventory, but also, which we partner with Travel Santa Ana to have an online inventory continuously, but we also maintain a public art inventory that the city commissions on our website, along with Travel Santa Ana's more large, encompassing all of the city, in both indoors and outdoor murals. So with artist collaboration is when the artists are given this commission at the end of their project, the completion of the project, they would then be asked to submit a list of materials used and how they would like this piece to be preserved, what's the best preservation method. If it's made by metal, is it a mural? So is it putting anti-graffiti coating on it? What is the best method of preservation as this art piece, to preserve this art piece? And, okay, maintenance, conservation, and deaccession policies. The city would be of utmost care to follow legal protections. We understand that VARA rights exist to protect artists and their artworks, but there are also limitations to VARA, particularly to murals, and that is also outlined in this document, because it's not just a blanket, all murals are protected, period. It's about, VARA's very much, it really is originally meant for visual arts only, paintings, sculptures maybe, and not to defame the artists themselves. But in regards to murals, it's about, can we remove this artwork without damaging the original artwork? So if you read carefully, that is stated in there. So we have to be mindful, I understand, not go the other extreme, but how can we work together on that, on these very nuanced laws? And especially as we get into more and more different kinds of artwork in the future. We're not just relegated to only sculptures or murals, but in the future, different kinds of installation, light installation, who knows? We're moving into the future. So we augmented reality. So those are things that VARA may or may not specifically address because it didn't exist back when the law was created. So those are things I think we have to keep developing and thinking about. And of course, nobody wants to, but there will be times when deaccession is necessary, which means removal of whatever art piece, artwork is there. It's happened sometimes, with people approving and sometimes not, but we do list criterias in the document that's hopefully outlines comprehensively times when it would be appropriate to deaccess, which is like take down an artwork. Next slide, please. Of course, community engagement encourages participation from Santa Ana artists and community members. We put that directly in here, again, for future staff members, future agencies to understand that this is an important component, especially those who are not in part of this discussion today. And it's to support that the artwork will reflect local culture and identity and provides opportunities for public input during the project development. And hopefully it'll be a partnership between the city and artists, where the artists will be there too, and to receive this input from the community. Next slide, please. The Arts and Culture Commission role. The role of the commissioners is to advise on public art policy, which you're doing, and program development, participate in artist selection when appropriate. I ask at least one art commissioner to participate on these panels at least. That way you're part of that process. And also for project reviews beforehand or afterwards, if necessary. Some projects will come directly to the Arts and Culture Commission, such as the South Main Arts Initiative in the past. That one was completely selected by the Arts Commissioners. So your role will evolve over time too, I believe. And also your role is to provide recommendations to City Council when appropriate. Next slide, please. Fiscal consideration. The policy guides the management of public art programs, support long-term maintenance planning, and ensures responsible stewardship of city-owned artworks. Currently, the only funding that we have allocated directly to this would be the mural restoration program, but we're hoping that in the future, there will be more allocations, say the public art, like the 1% for art, which some of you are familiar with, where you take a percentage from developers to put into a pot, and then that would fund all of these initiatives that we'd like to do. More maintenance funding, more pre-commission, or even able to commission public artwork. Next steps is collecting community and stakeholder feedback, which we've been doing. We've opened it up. Many folks have already submitted their feedback. Arts and Culture Commission review and discussion. Hopefully, we'll do that today. And refinement of the policy, if necessary, after our meeting. And finally, staff will present the final draft to City Council for consideration and adoption. That's it.
Can you share the timeline, like the exact timeline for that last slide? Like, when would it go before the city council? Possibly?
Yes. I'll get that later. Okay. We were aiming for, I believe, April. Yeah, April, to present it to council.
It should be April 21st.
April 21st, yes, yes. Yes, very soon. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from commissioners?
Well, open it up to the commission. You want to give comments? Please go ahead.
I'll just say thank you. I really appreciate the staff report. Whoever compiled that, I don't think it had an author on it, but because I really like the connection to the Arts and Culture Master Plan, which I know many people who have come to speak about in public comment. And so I think it's sort of a nice coda, if you will, to that Arts and Culture Plan, which sort of ends. I also just want to highlight, I'm not so much a fan of the term public engagement. I prefer community engagement, but I won't quibble too much there. I just really appreciate that it is included in this policy and that it's highlighted, its importance is highlighted very explicitly. In fact, I feel like there's a sort of an emphasis on how it should be included in design. Input should be part of the design process. And that's something that I think, even in this last round of event sponsorships, we saw a proposal for a mural project that sort of hinted at that idea, but didn't really commit to it. And I'll be honest, I want to see commitment to community engagement. And now that we have a policy, I think that will be there. I also want to say I feel like the policy really responded to some of the comments that we've had, the public has made before us. And I'll just highlight three. We had about a year ago, we had a lot of folks coming out to talk about AI and with disapproval for that, and a lot of artists. And I felt like the policy touched on it. It spoke to that idea. I know there was some public comments saying it went too far. I think right now, I thought it was at a good place based on the public comments that we've received. More against the use of AI than not, or at least some sort of announcement about how AI is used. And then also thank you for the prioritization of local artists. Again, for anyone who hasn't been here in the last year or 2 years, this has been a big issue. We had a lot of people come out and speak to this, and so formalizing it in this policy, I think also shows that we hear the public and we're responding to their concerns. And then the preservation of our local treasures, I just wanted to highlight on that. When it comes to the RFQ process, again, kind of new. I had to struggle with it a little bit when I first learned about it because I was one of the people that was consulted before this policy came to us as a commission. And I think what was interesting about now that I think about it in a new way is we've had a lot of conversation on this commission about how we'd like a database of artists. And I know that it might not be feasible based on staffing, et cetera. But I think the RFQ sort of in a way creates like a micro version of that by saying, who are the artists who meet the qualifications for such a project or commission? And then it gives us time to really vet them. It gives the community time to vet those artists and really think about. I love the inclusion of references from the community. Because again, some of the complaints about local artists, it's not so much the artist that we're opposing to, but it's like, where is this person's tie to the community? Like, I think it's great that they might understand the cultural of Santa Ana, and I do think that's a priority, but I also want to know that they've committed to this community in a real, authentic way. They have, our community can vouch for them. And so I really appreciate that is now, again, formalized in this policy.
Commissioner, if I may just interject, just because I believe Commissioner Lopez Guerra is going to have to step out right now, so we will come back to you. I just wanted to give her an opportunity to just share some thoughts.
And I apologize in all transparency, the phone, it's my emergency line, and that's what's gone off twice, so I want to be very clear on that. I want to echo what Commissioner Russell is saying about the intentionality and the details and the transparency of the policy. I do know that it's always a work in progress, but given where we are, I really do think it's been reflective of what we've heard the community, so I'm very, very thankful for it. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. I want to be very clear that if we, as a collective, do not feel that it's ready for the April date, I'm comfortable saying we continue looking at it. I want to make sure that we are solid in moving forward with it and that we're hearing everyone's input. My last comment was I was at the Mexican consulate. They have a new art exhibit that's absolutely beautiful from an artist from Tijuana, and it's Mujeres Pájaros, and if you haven't gone, go. And I apologize again. I'm so grateful for everything. Take care, everyone. Take care of your souls. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lopez Guerra. Commissioner Russell, please continue.
Quorum now? Oh, okay. Okay, I have a couple comments. One, particularly because of what's happened this week. We have murals. I believe we have maybe one on city property in the park that will need to be, let's see, what's the term? De-ascension? And so I really would love for you to walk us through one more time exactly what is in this policy and maybe for us to reflect on what needs to be in the policy based on the immediacy of the situation. Like, will that artist, for instance, be reached out to and notified, or will the city take any action in this particular case? But in any kind of de-ascension case, are we committed to saying we will reach out to the artist or next of kin, make sure they have ample time to respond? And so I'll leave that question there because that's a pretty important one.
Commissioners, any other comments?
Yeah, just a little bit to elaborate on the public art policy. Just to echo a little bit of what Commissioner Deborah here said, or Russell, sorry. I feel that we do need to connect with the community. Obviously, it's been voiced by the committee coming out tonight, just to work on it and to get it on a more community basis. So I think that I don't mind taking a little bit more time if we're able to get it right compared to just rushing it. So those are just my thoughts on that.
I agree. I think it's important to take the necessary time to make sure that we're looking at all the pieces and bringing something as comprehensive as possible forward to the City Council.
I have a couple questions. So does this public art policy only deal with murals, or it is is a catch-all for any and all, including digital art or other type of installations that would be somehow permanently in city-owned properties?
Yes, it's all-encompassing. It's meant to be more all-encompassing, not just murals.
Okay. My other question is, did this commission have any role in pushing forward for this policy or what was the role that we played in pushing for this public art policy, or did it come from another department?
So it was a multifaceted. I'll let Tram, she's looking for responses to the de-accession process, and we will get back to you on that. But I think it came about organically. We saw that there was a lot of concerns surrounding issues. We had a lot of concerns with issues with Chicano Gothic. We, as staff, and we had heard in different Arts and Culture Commission meetings over the past about Sergio's work that was covered up when the Ross Annex work was undertaken. But I do want to say that the Public Works Department, the Public Works Agency, led the charge and worked to bring in a policy that could be prepared for public art, and then it made its way to multiple departments, including Parks and Recreation, Planning and Building, and then our department has taken a lot of that input and tried to include in that information we found from Los Angeles, from Santa Monica, from Laguna, from lots of different other public art policies with other municipalities. And so I don't want to say that the Arts and Culture Commission didn't help with this, because you all, and hearing your voices, hearing voices from the public at these meetings was very instrumental and led to this policy. And 10 years ago, when the Arts Master Plan was developed, it envisioned this. So it was long overdue.
Thank you. And so this was, and then as far as the drafting of this and, you know, the hiring of consultant, that was a decision made by the city manager, was it?
By the Public Works Agency, and in particular with their director and their development team. So our Public Works Agency has the Parks Development Team, and because of the Chicano Gothic being in a park, they picked up the mantle and ran with it. And we're glad that they did, because this policy was, as I mentioned, something that needed to be put in place, so.
Right. Yeah, I'm asking this, you know, just to get in my head, like the role that we played, and where it kind of stemmed from, and then what it's the issue that it's seeking to resolve, which is what I understand is there was kind of different departments that were playing a role, from Public Works to Parks and Rec to Arts and Culture, and perhaps it was kind of like, okay, well, whose job is it type of situation, but this is a sort of an SOP, right, for folks to be able to then take this based on, like you said, other cities and what they've done, and also the VARA and other items, you know, to get future city staff, you know, for future projects to have somewhere to return, like, well, whose job is it to do this? Oh, well, here it says that this is the department that leads it, and so on, right? So it's a better kind of flow for the city staff to not have to scramble each time, right, to figure out what to do in case of public art, right? So that's helpful to understand. And so how long has this process, like, you know, like from the start, as far as, you know, like drafting of the policy and then getting input from and then how much time then was like given for the community to give input on this policy?
Well, this process has been from the beginning, discussed in different ways. There's always been something that started off as a wish list and discussed, like I said, on the dais, at commission meetings, in ad hoc subcommittees. There have been many ad hoc subcommittees prior to this commission working on different drafts, different variations, and you, Vice Chair Hernandez, has sat on a mural guideline ad hoc subcommittee. So with all of that input, that commissioners have gone out to the public and talked to themselves, and we've had community forums or town halls to discuss murals and all of it, so it has been a while. Now, I think maybe the spark that made it more urgent was the discussion around the Emilio Vasquez mural in Memorial Park. I think that was sort of lit this into, okay, let's just have something concrete for at least parks to have, because most of our public artworks, which consists of, the majority is murals, lives in parks that the city owns. That parks took the lead for a while, to see how can they have some kind of process in writing to govern their agency. And then from that, it was seen that many different agencies need to be a part of this, and it wasn't just parks that should be writing up these policies. And that's when all of the agencies got together And in regards to this particular version, we did send it out, I believe, I'd have to look. It was sent out to the community. On March 4th. So we sent it out for feedback on this particular policy. But there has been many, many different kinds of feedbacks that we've just, what's that word? Synthesized, yeah, synthesize and coalesce. And many people are saying the same thing. So it's not much different. But now that it's in writing and it's more formalized, then folks can look at it and, you know, break it apart and say this, that. But all the elements in here were gathered and informed by 10 years of discussions.
Okay. And my final question before I make my last comment. Are we taking a vote on this here today?
No, this is just a work study. And it's really, I think, because ultimately council is the one who approves a policy or not. And commissioners would be more or less, you're recommending this policy. You're saying, yes, we agree, this is a solid policy. Council members, you know, please vote for it. Please pass it.
Thank you. So I heard from my fellow commissioners, and you know, there is some perhaps hesitancy or wanting to give more opportunities for input, and that's valid. I think you know. But another thing is that, you know, we could continue to, you know, for another year and another 2 years, and continue to give opportunities. But it does seem like we've had ample opportunity to have, you know, public comment, and this is, again, not, you know, based on the strategic plan. This was something that's been years in the making. I would personally, you know, hope that a lot of the recommendations that were put, you know, forth by, you know, the folks here that spoke up in previous meetings, you know, that could be amended and included into the final policy. You know, that would be my personal hope. I would also, you know, support, you know, the majority up here that would say that, you know, perhaps more input would be given. However, I do think that there is, you know, a moment to hopefully celebrate that which has taken, you know, years in the making, that has included so many people, and to finally have something that ultimately can prevent situations like the Chicano Goth mural, because, you know, that precipitated and really brought the urgency of these kinds of things to the forefront. But, you know, so yeah, I think that you know, whether it's including other items or and amending, like, you know, that's, I hope that y'all have taken notes, and I know you have, and, you know, looked at and you know, seen in as much as you can fit it. It's never going to be perfect. No policy ever is, but I think it is a good starting point to then, you know, whether we want to have more funding for murals or more for other types of things, those are, you know, conversations that should be had with council, but also, you know, the artist grants. I think we've worked really hard to make it equitable so that different types of art, not just one specific type of art, can get funded ideally. And then also this event sponsorship is a great opportunity to be able to apply. You know, only 11 folks applied for that. I hope that folks applied, more people, and from different types of, you know, of mediums can apply. But yeah, I think ultimately who's the folks that are going to vote for this is the city council, right? So yeah, so I think I just want to say that I appreciate the comments from everybody here, and then that sent comments online, but also, like, you know, personally, I think, you know, given all of that, you know, then Tram, you and your team will then, you know, put forth that policy, and then the discussion will continue at the city council meeting when there would be a vote to adopt this policy. So those are my comments.
Oh, yes, thank you for that. One of your comments, Vice Chair, that I did forget to mention and emphasize is that this document can keep, it's not locked, it's not an ordinance. so that it's not locked in stone. It's can evolve. So if, as we work through it and it seems, oh, that didn't work in practical sense, we could go back and change it. That's why it's an internal policy document. So thank you, yes.
To that point, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't realize, I thought this is, once we develop it and it's voted by city council, then we're done. So we can, if things come up where we feel like this isn't quite working, or this isn't really giving us enough guidance, what is the, how does it work if you need to update a certain section of the policy, or what would, is there a timeline, or is it, can be brought up at any time? If you can explain how that works, I'd appreciate it.
You know, we might want to, depending on how comments come in after city council approves it, lump them into multiple changes that'll go back to the city council. If they're not too, you know, for a city, we always worry about cost, the cost of an item that's being recommended. So if it's a big budget item, then we would definitely want to make sure city council, but if it's something like augmented reality is something that's new and we didn't thoroughly address it and we can add it administratively, we don't want to make that something that we have to go back to council, prepare a staff report, and it becomes cumbersome. So we would look at it through the lens of how quickly can we and feasibly can we implement it, and then take it to city council as we get larger amendments that come in over the years, over the months. So this is more like a living document that belongs to not only the commission and the council, but the community, so.
Thank you for that. I did have one question, and excuse me if maybe I'm not understanding it. When we talked about RFQ versus RFP, 50,000 and below, no need for an RFQ, 50,000 and above, then it goes to RFP. Why would we not require an RFQ for a lower amount? Is it just because of the workload, or?
Yes, yes, because as we get into larger projects, it's more the time spent to do an RFQ for such a smaller amount versus something that is going to be 100,000, you know, hundreds of thousands. That one, we would have to be more scrutinize it a bit more.
Okay.
Also, under 50,000, a lot of the work that we end up doing when we do procurement, those lower amounts are for, it often gives more opportunity for startups, for businesses that are just, you know, starting, they don't have a good statement of qualifications. Same thing would apply to artists. You know, we do not want to discourage folks that maybe are brand new and, you know, are wanting to submit an application. A lot of times when the price amount gets higher, you're dealing with a much bigger installment. There may be need for scaffolding or something of that nature, footings if it's a statue of certain weight. And so that RFQ threshold at 50,000, that's pretty important to us, so.
Okay, thank you.
Was there an answer regarding the de-ascension process?
Oh, did you want to know?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
definitely. All it says in the page 9 of the policy that whenever maintenance or restoration, which includes de-accession, is required, the city will make every effort to consult the original artist or the artist's next of kin if deceased to ensure that all interventions respect the original artist's intent. But obviously, we're de-accessioning it, then it's not about the artist's original intent necessarily. And then there's a list of de-accession of public art. The following criteria may constitute grounds for the de-accession or removal of a public artwork. The presence of one or more of these conditions does not require removal, but may warrant review and consideration by the city. Then we list it. Would you like me to go through the listing? Or?
It's okay. I just wanted to make sure that we had, I know there were a lot of public comments around that. And I just want to speak to, you know, the history again of this. We started off maybe a year or 2 years ago with just the mural guidelines. And I'll be honest, they felt kind of flimsy. They felt very limited in scope. And so this just feels like a mature, grown-up policy. I don't think we've ever gotten 16 public comments about anything we've done on this commission. Am I wrong? Yeah, we have more audience members here today than we've had at the last, year's worth of meetings. And so I feel like we have a momentum around this policy. And I'd really, again, as a capstone to the Mass Arts and Culture Master Plan, this feels like the culmination of, that work. We haven't met all of the goals in that master plan, but this was definitely one of them that was very much needed. It got a lot of media attention. I'm not sure if anyone's been reading. The Voice of OC reported on it 2, maybe 3 times. But I do have one big question finally, and this speaks to one of the public comments today, which is a policy is great, but does it have any funding? And I thought the timing today was really important, being that we had a presentation about the budget, and then we have this great policy that again really showcases all of our efforts over all of these meetings, all the public comments. People have come out here and sitting through some boring conversation. Is there funding? Is this an opportunity for us to maybe enact that public art trust fund?
At this point, I think we're just discussing the policy first. So let's get this approved, and then one step at a time. Of course, we're always fighting for that kind of funding to move forward, and that would be a city council call. So they would have to approve that.
So are you saying maybe that this is something that all the commissioners need to go to their council members and advocate for?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll get that public impact or the economic impact data to show how the arts is contributing and why this policy is both important and brings in revenue to make our city better, so that we could act. One more question about the public trust fund, because I do feel like it's it makes it all real, right? Like mandates are great, like in education where I work, you can mandate all kinds of curriculum things, but if you don't put any money behind it, it doesn't mean anything. It's like with ethnic studies right now. Is there opportunity for some of these business partners that another person mentioned in public comment, like Related Bristol? I remember seeing them at Art Walk, for instance, them touting how great it is to be close to Art Walk. Wouldn't they be great partners to help launch such a public trust fund? Is that something that our economic development team can take on, or is that outside the purview?
I'll let Mark answer that one.
I think typically it would be outside the purview of the city to ask businesses for funding for this type of program. We usually don't do that.
How does something like that work? Like, is that something that
sometimes I've seen cities will actually create a nonprofit arm. They'll have like a economic development a corporation or some other entity that they use for different funding. City of LA has the LA River Revitalization Corporation. I used to serve on that board actually. And they created that for just that purpose. How are we going to have some long-term impacts on the LA River and beautification? And it's a little like what we're talking about here. There are community development corporations in our city. That might be one way to go. I think, there's different ways. Some cities have created different nonprofits. The old assistant city manager, Steve Mendoza, and I were looking at creating a nonprofit. And I went through a little exercise with him on, okay, what would that look like? How would we, how would that operate? And something we did in the past before we were requiring in different development agreements, public art. And so if you go to, for example, the northeast corner of Main and Memory Lane, there's a big, tall water sculpture that was created there. And that was just our redevelopment staff and our economic development staff pushing to have that in there. But something that we've been discussing internally is like having what we used to call art in public places fee that would get assigned to developments of certain sizes. What did you used to call it, Tram? I say art in public places. Percent for art. These are different ways that we can start trying to develop funds for doing a trust fund of sorts. So we're open to all ideas. So if the commission would indulge me, do we want to forward this on to the city council? We were looking at the April 21st. That was an internal deadline that had been given to us as a staff. Or do you feel we heard comments about wanting to possibly provide a little more time for more public input? So even though you're not voting, you could vote on moving it forward on, on the April 21st city council meeting.
Wait, so are we voting or are we not voting?
Not voting, but kind of giving your verbal.
Oh, your verbal, like, yeah, not a formal vote,
Yes.
but.
I agree. I think we should. I think the timing and the momentum is all there. We've gotten a great amount of feedback that we haven't, I don't think we, again, ever received this amount of feedback on anything we've done up here.
Do we feel as a commission that this policy that's been updated really does identify the areas of concern?
Yeah, I made my comment that, you know, and to what Tram just mentioned about it being a living document, you know, this is not the final word in it, you know, and so there is a feeling, and if I don't want to speak for Commissioner Lopez Guerra, but, you know, she was fine with whatever, you know, the folks up here decided, you know, to move forward with, but yeah, I would like for it to move forward, and then at that point, for folks, you know, that still have some concerns or issues, you know, to bring those up to the council, and then, you know, could amendments happen by the council, you know, based on council direction at the next meeting?
In fact, we will take everybody's input into consideration and incorporate it into the document before we send it off to
Who will be
council.
presenting it?
I'm sorry?
Will you be presenting it?
It might be Mike.
It might be me.
No, she passed the buck to you, Mike.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, yeah, I'm personally in support of moving it to the council.
If that is the case, that you're going to take all the comments and incorporate them, will we receive a draft that we can
Yes.
see before it goes before council, if it happens on the 21st? I'm okay with it, I just would like to see it beforehand and review it.
We have timing deadlines for getting items into our city council for review internally. So early April, we will have to have like the staff report, probably by April 6th or 7th. However, we are, as Tramlia had mentioned, we're gonna take comments. I was taking good notes. We're gonna add comments from not only the commission, but the community. And as we receive additional comments over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will try to get it to a good point where we can present that as an exhibit to our staff report, so.
Just to elaborate a little bit on what we just received, I'm for it to move forward if we were to change the policy or go back or re-amend it. But yeah, overall, it sounds good, and I'm with the rest of the commission.
Great, thank you very much. City staff, it's worked really hard, and you know, just everybody from the community that gave comments here today, and as well as my fellow commissioners. So we will now consider matters under the business calendar. The first item on the business calendar is, and I'm so excited, item number 3, arts and culture special events sponsorship applications for March 2026. Will staff report on the matter?
Yes, it's me again. All right, so as you'll see, the final list compiled by the Arts Commissioners, there are 11 applications and 7 were funded. The first one is from, and this is in no particular order, it's very random, the order, Artsy 101 LLC. The event name is Arte en Comunidad Series 3, Arte en El Parque. There will be 3 dates. The event was unanimous, the approval was unanimous. The amount approved is $4,855. Second application is Soul on Fire Dance LLC. Event name is Santa Ana Pride, happening on June 7th. Also unanimous approval, amount approved is $8,000. DTSA Feel Good Events for Tamal Fest, happening in December 12th, that received 3 yeses and 1 no. The amount approved is $6,375. Heritage Museum of Orange County for their Powwow 2026 event, in November 14th, unanimous approval of $8,125. OCTAC, or Orange County Children's Therapeutic Arts Center, for their 2026 Community Partners Celebration happening in May 21st, received 3 yeses and 1 no, with the approved amount of $5,350. The Cambodian family, for their 2026 Cambodian New Year celebration happening in April 11th, received a unanimous yes for $7,000. Kids Singers, for their Kids Singer Spring Concert, The Power of Love, happening in May 2nd, received a unanimous approval with $4,375. And finally, Dance Arts Academy Foundation, for their Santa Ana Movement Exchange, a community dance showcase happening in April of 2027. I'm sorry, that's a typo. It's 2027, is a unanimous approval for $6,750. Any questions, or do you vote to approve this list?
Yeah, can you repeat the first one and the last one, please?
The first one is Artsy 101 LLC. The event is Arte, I'm sorry for the pronunciation, Arte en Comunidad Series 3, Arte en el Parque. 3 dates in May, June, July, unanimous approval for $4,855. And the last one is Dance Arts Academy Foundation, for their event Santa Ana Movement Exchange, a community dance showcase happening in April of 2027. Had a unanimous approval for $6,750.
Was I correct in hearing that all but one were unanimously approved?
It seems like that, huh? No, 2, all but 2.
Which was the DTSA Feel Good?
DTSA Tamal Fest and OCTAC's Community Partner Celebration.
Any comments from the commission before we motion to vote?
I'll just share that I think this time, and usually, we had a number of applicants who did not have budgets. They kind of referenced, money would be spent a certain way, but in contrast with the applications that had very detailed budgets, and you could see they're spending this much on picture frames, or they're spending this much on, going back to artists, for instance. That was definitely a determining point, and so I made sure that was in my comments to folks is, there's an expectation, even if it's, because a lot of folks were asking for the full amount. You should have a budget so that we can evaluate where we would like to see the funding go, and maybe, Sorry, and then approval note. We had 2 applicants without firm approvals. One of them was a mural, and, so asking for money, but it wasn't very clear that where the mural would go. So those are things that I think I would encourage those folks to reapply, but it had an impact on the decision.
Just to elaborate after Commissioner Russell here. Yeah, that's one of the big things that I noticed about the applications. Some had a budget, they were well structured, others were very vague. They didn't really have a set location. And so I think they just need to revisit it and really just have a detailed breakdown of how the grant's gonna go, because they did apply for the whole $10,000, but the details were not specific enough.
We do have, so the next round would be, we have $124,170 going forward, and the deadline would be April 6th. For those who are still, please keep applying.
One more request, because they do list the ward that the event will be taking place on the application, can that be added to this graph that we're looking at on page 12?
Yes.
Because it is nice to be able to see, one ward is having a lot more events versus another ward.
Any other comments? I echo the comments from Commissioner Russell and Commissioner Bermejo. If you didn't have a budget, was a vague application, or you were asking for money for a mural and did not have a location locked in, then And that was just not something I was going to be able to support at that moment. However, there is very much an opportunity to reapply, with a better application. The other thing that worth mentioning is that in a lot of cases, the funding that these proposals will receive will cover all of, the funds necessary, because there are smaller kind of things, there are little workshops and such. In some of these other larger things, there's no way that 10,000 is going to cover it. And so, that's something to keep in mind. And, just on a personal level, there's, it's just important to be really clear as far as like the budgeting and stuff. And I just, saw something about, one of the applicants was saying that they were gonna request a certain, amount of money for, have an event at their own place that I believe that they owned. So, that kind of like jumped out at me. I was like, well, I don't see how you're charging or yourself to do an event that in your parking lot. So those kinds of things jumped out at me. But in any case, yeah, was it 8 out of 11 that were approved, right? So, there's still a lot of funding left, and then, the community should apply and spread the word and, be able to give, I've been, sending it to a lot of people, to just be like, hey, it's time for you, to apply, whether it's a small little event or workshop or, something that you had a dream about making reality. This is a good opportunity for folks. And my personal goal is to be able to fund as many people as possible. If, and it's seed money, so it might not be the whole cost, but it gets the ball rolling to get more art programming in our city. With that, if there's no other comments, do we have a motion to approve item number 3, Arts and Culture Commission, special event sponsorships applications for March 2026?
I move.
I second.
Thank you, commissioners. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Aye. Register myself as well. A matter approved by unanimous consent. Does the staff have any comments they wish to share with the commission?
Real quickly, just wanted to let the commission know that one of the agenda items on the next, at the next meeting will be the election of a chair with the vacancy in the chair position. We will have an election. We will stay on our calendar of regular elections, which I believe is every July. But we, at the next agenda, we will put that as an item. I also just wanted to thank the members of the public, Ruby Wu, Alicia Rojas, John Spiak, he looks like he left already, Victor Payan, Marina Aguilera, and Andrea Pinedo for coming and giving their comments. We very much appreciate that, and I'll turn it over to Tramley now.
Thank you. Just to clarify what Director Garcia said about the vote, the election for chair, is when we vote next month, it is only until the end of this term, since Indigo had resigned. And then starting in July, we'll vote for another chair. It could be the same chair, yes. Okay, but actually, to clarify, at the next vote, it doesn't have to be Jose. I'm just saying this for the record, but anybody who wants to fill in the spot from now until the end of this term, technically. Okay, so my comments, we just had the artist grant is now moving forward for this round. We've had 2 mandatory info sessions on March 12th and the 17th. We've had a total of 90 people attend, so that's wonderful. And the deadline is this Monday to turn in the applications, Monday at 11:59 p.m. That's it for me.
So does that mean that we will be asked to oh no, you're going to pick one commissioner, so we will not be asked to evaluate.
And that commissioner is Victorino. He volunteered. Thank you.
Okay, and commission members, does the commission have any comments they wish to share? Commission members, please note that no member may speak more than once until all have had the opportunity to speak. Also, the commission may limit our comments to 3 minutes each, but you're free to speak as long as you feel the need. So, commissioners?
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Your comments do mean a lot to us. We take note of everybody that came tonight. They expressed their thoughts and ideas as well as what they're passionate about. I want to thank Commissioner or former Commissioner Irene, or Indigo, my bad, Indigo Vu, for her service and her dedication to the Arts and Culture Commission. I want to wish her good luck on her business and her bakery. I know she's been working hard towards it.
Sorry, Commissioner, I just have to say that her pronouns are they.
They, oh, so sorry, they. And yeah, but just wishing them the best of luck so they are successful in their business, and thank you very much for their service. The other thing I want to mention is, let's see here. So I just want to thank or acknowledge a new small business that opened here in the city of Santa Ana, which is the Downtown Mini Mart. And I got to meet some of the owners and see what they're doing, and they just really want to get involved with the city as well as some of the arts, as I mentioned. But it's always important to support and acknowledge and promote like small businesses here in the city of Santa Ana. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bermejo. Any other commissioners?
I'll just share that we have an ad hoc that's looking at the continuation or the evolution of the master plan, and we have committed to speaking with arts leaders, I think, as a starting point, but it could also encompass residents or any artists or interested folks. But we're starting to have conversations, and I assume at our next commission meeting, we will probably be able to report out. And it's just been really exciting. I encourage everyone on the commission to embark on conversations like this, and we can share the questions we've been asking or are planning to ask with you all if you're interested. Really just saying, like, did the master plan, what ideas from the master plan 10 years ago are still relevant or are still pertinent to, a vibrant arts community here in Santa Ana today. So I'm looking forward to being able to share some of those next time.
Okay, I just want to say that, I'm really just happy to be able to be a part of this commission and, the important work and being able to push forward this, public policy that will be, document that, again, we'll get the ball rolling and will be a living document that we can continue to just strengthen the staff's ability to serve the community's interests in the best way possible, protect our cultural heritage, and support our artist community. So I'm really happy about that historic moment that we are going through in this moment. I also want to echo Commissioner Bermejo's comments about Indigo. They served on this commission for 6 years, I believe, and I really miss them already. They were the chair for also 3 of those years. Before that, it was Commissioner Chair McNair, who I also miss. I think it's just Commissioner Russell and I were the stragglers, and we first came in, and we've just been we've gone through a lot, but it's been great, and I want to acknowledge their service and their contributions to this commission, all the important work. I am interested in joining the subcommittee for the that Commissioner Russell is a part of with Commissioner Bermejo. Is that correct? the master plan. Yeah, so if, unless Commissioner. Okay,
I would love to. I just, right now, my time with projects is, it's very limited, but I would love to, if you could send me the questions that you're asking. There are other artists that I work with that I would love to get some feedback.
yeah, and yeah, I also want to uplift Commissioner Peña Marin and your organization, Relámpago del Cielo, that's going to be celebrating 50th anniversary, right? So that's just remarkable, and very happy about that as well. And yeah, so I'm not the chair, I'm just the vice chair that is running these meetings. But I'm still going to use this gavel right now. But also, if other commissioners would like to, to take over this duty for the next couple meetings, then that would be fine with me as well. I think it's a moment to uplift women and the folks that like Commissioner Russell, that have served also for many years and done such great work. But in any case, the one thing that I want to mention is that I recently became aware about that there's the Los Darks Festival, that there was a DJ that decided that they no longer wanted to be involved with the Los Darks Festival because of ties with the Peachtree Entertainment, which is a Nashville-based organization that is, quote-unquote MAGA aligned. They produce like Rock the South, Rock the Country, and Kid Rock's other festivals. So, that's troubling to hear. I really would hope that we are choosing through the RFP process entities that are not fueling that which is harming our community, and specifically here in Santa Ana. That is, so many of the percentage of the population is immigrant and is deeply impacted by what this administration is doing in regards to ICE raids and such. So, I don't know how much, vetting or whatnot is done, and, ultimately, it's, council is not, partisan per se, but it is not apolitical, and there are choices that can be made moving forward for future events, because I'm really excited in general to have more events at that space. I see the Garden Amp and Garden Grove just doing such amazing work, in a moment when we're seeing Live Nation and Ticketmaster, being given sweetheart deals so they can continue to screw over artists and concert goers. The community owned, city-owned venues like, our stadium and, Garden Amp with our neighbors is the places that, we can and should support, but also, that it aligns with the values of this community. And the last comment I want to say is that I'm very interested in being able to take up the issue around the cultural arts districting of our city. Again, in a way that is inclusive, that has folks from, the different wards and different mediums of art, like coming together to figure out how we could do it in the right way, to really have that, so I want to reach out to the California for the Arts Board and see if there's a potential for a future commission to have one of their members come in and give a presentation on how that process is done and how we can make it as inclusive as possible for the community, so that we feel like this, we are all empowered and represented, and our voices are heard. And there's going to be conversations at the next council meeting around just murals and renaming and so on and so forth. And so that conversation is welcome, and the most important thing for me is to make sure that we listen to the community and the communities that are in those areas where these arts or things are looking at to be renamed or removed, and that it's a community-led process to make sure that those voices are heard. So those are my final comments. Any other comments by the commission? Hearing none,
I'll just make one more, just because we got a little nostalgic there for a minute. I'll just say, what a great way to, for some of us who've been on this commission for a long time and have been a part of some of these conversations, tonight was pretty momentous because it looks like we might not be looking at this policy again if it moves forward to the council. So I just want to say, what a great way that we have passed on the torch. Some of us might not be here, in a year from now. And so I think this was a great effort on our part, something really historic for the city. And so I think we should be proud of that. So congratulations, everyone.
Great, thank you for that, Commissioner Russell. Thank you, Commissioner Peña-Marin, Commissioner Lopez Guerra, and Commissioner Bermejo being here. We need more commissioners, so if you live in the Ward 5 or Ward 4, then this is your moment to step up and join us, because if we don't have quorum, then we are not able to approve potentially event sponsorships moving forward. So then that, we need 4 people to be here. So that's on my mind and should be on the community's mind to make sure that folks are funded in due time. So this meeting is officially adjourned. The next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, April 16th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m.